Okay, welcome to episode 5. And just to start off with, I did remove the cans, as I said I would. And you could see that these coils are just kind of hanging there. I took the cans off and I cleaned them up. A little bit of steel wool, nothing crazy. I am going to put some clear coat on them, but there's something I want to show you which is important. So, inside these cans, if you could see in there, there's an insulator. They're both broken, cracked, they're old. And they seem to be stuck in there. And I think basically what they do is they go over the sides where the screws are. So if I look here, they insulate the sides right here and right here. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to replace that. So one of the alternatives I came up with is this piece of plastic, which I've measured, that would fit inside here. And I've measured the holes, if you could see that. It's a little hard to see that. Let me put my hand here. And what I can do is slip these down inside the can, like so, and that should be able to provide what I need. So, so I think that's going to be the plan. So I'm going to go and fish that junk out of there and replace it with this plastic. This plastic should do the job just fine, and it'll help protect that. I've also cleaned the top of these cans with an acid brush and some alcohol, just to get some of the surface dirt off there. I don't know if the mica underneath is good or not. I honestly don't know. So I'll have to save that for another day to test it. I'm afraid to take those off, honestly, because doing an alignment on these things is hard. But now you're going to challenge me. But I'm going to figure that out. So I'll let you know where we are with that. So so that's the step there. So I'm going to take this can here and fish that brown stuff out of there and replace it with my my plastic and see if that does the trick. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, so I did remove the paper from one of the cans, and it's really just nothing more than a paper, an insulator. So I've got the can soaking in some water for a couple of minutes, soften that paper up, and then I'll take it all out of there and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, being that I've decided to live on the edge here with these cans, I decided that I was going to take a look at the mica that's underneath these and clean them. Those of you that know mica know it's very, very fragile. And the way this works is there's a metal plate on top and there's a metal plate on the bottom, and sandwiched between those two plates is this piece of mica, which I took out. It had no silver mica disease, which is good. So I just gave it a really quick cleaning, and I'm going to insert that back in between the two metal plates. And then there's another piece of plastic. I don't think that's mica, but that goes underneath the screw that holds that down. So so I don't know if I'm going to take the rest of the pieces of mica out, honestly, because if this thing doesn't have mica disease, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be okay. But you know, I want to be sure, being that I have this thing open, and that I'm able to take a look at it rather than have to do it again. Right? So worst case is when I start to adjust the cans, when I get this all done, if it doesn't work right, then I'll rip it out again, right? So I'm going to do this off camera, put that mica back in because I don't want to break it. Basically, it's attached to this wire right here, this metal plate. So if I essentially lift that up, I've got plenty of clearance. So I'm going to do that now. I just wanted to show you what I was doing with the mica. I'm just going to clean the tops of these off. I'm going to take the screws out, put them in some Evapo-Rust because they are rusty, and then put them back in. I'll be back. It may be hard to tell on the camera, but this looks a whole lot better. And now I know it's clean, and I don't have to worry about it. So, next thing we'll do, we'll take this screw out and the washer, and we'll soak it. We'll clean up that top a little bit, and we'll leave the mica intact. And I'll do the same thing on this one. Be back. Okay, so I've checked all these, no silver mica, so those are all good. I didn't take them out, but they're all clean. So what I've done is I've put those pieces of plastic I told you about inside here, and you'll see the holes are all lined up, and I've got a piece of tape on each side. And it's basically just insulation for the most part. And you'll also notice that I flattened out the tops of these cans. They were dented in pretty badly. And I got a nice tip from John from Arkansas for that, so I have to publicly thank John for that, on how to do that. And I can show you how to do it too if you'd like. So basically, you take your can on a flat surface, and this is aluminum, and you could take anything that's you know, flat, but I used a socket like this and just gently tap all around the can like this, gently. You don't have to go hard. You're never going to get it perfect, but it's going to straighten it out, and that's what I've got here. So the next step for me is going to be to take the screws and washers that are here out of the Evapo-Rust in a little while, and put this back in. And there's little pieces of mica underneath those screws, and I've cleaned those. They were a little bit dirty. Here's the other one. Being very careful because mica is very fragile. And there's the last one. And we're going to put those back on, and then we're going to put those cans back in, and we are done with that. So that's good news. Now we know that those cans are going to be good. In the event that I turn this thing back, I put everything back together and it doesn't work right, and I turn those screws and it doesn't mean anything, it doesn't work. There's ways that you can adjust that. There's variable capacitors that you can install if you had to, and we'll worry about that when the time comes. So as of right now, this is pretty much cleaned up best I could. I cleaned the top. I don't want to disturb these wires. There's coils in here. And on the plastic that I use to put inside these cans, I just used a hole puncher like that. Works great. So that's where we are. So I'll come back when I'm putting these cans back together and show you what the end product looks like. I want to clean a little bit under here because they're a little ratty under there as well. While I've got them off, might as well clean it. See my finger? So we'll be doing that next. I'll come back. Okay, before we put these cans back in, I do have all the screws back in. So I'm going to mount those cans back in, and we'll see what it looks like. Be back. Hey folks, there's a reason why I love this hobby. And I'm going to explain to you why I love this hobby. So, don't mind the phone. Let me stop it till... Okay, the phone stopped ringing. So, got this can on, no problem. Put this can on, and if you recall, the screws on these tops were really, really rusted. Well, when I put the screw on this one, look what happened. Broke right off. Screw. So now I have no way to attach the can, the top of the can, to that screw. And I'm certainly not going to take the coil off. That ain't going to happen. I have to be able to secure the top of this to that so I can at least adjust the screws if I have to. So here's the plan. And that's why I love this hobby. So I'm going to move this camera a little bit and show you in some kind of detail here exactly what I'm going to do. And we're going to zoom in. Okay, so here's the plan. So the hole right here, let me get my pointer. Something to point with. There it is. So this screws out, can't touch it, I'm not going to mess with it. This hole right here is a hole through the ceramic. There's nothing underneath it. There's no wires, there's no wires through the coil. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a number 4, 40, 1.5 inch nylon screw. And we're going to take that nylon screw, I'm going to put it through the hole, up through the top like this. And then when we get to the can, it's going to come out of, let me pull the shot back a little bit. When we come out of the can, it's going to come out of this hole right here. Right? That lines up with this hole. We're going to put a washer over here, and we're going to put a nut on it. And that's going to secure the top of that to this can. So there's always a way. Piece of cake, easy, no problem. That's how we're going to solve this problem. Okay? So I wanted to share that with you. When that happens, you don't panic. What I did was, first thing was I cursed a little bit. But then I sat back and said, okay, what would be the logical thing to do? I can try to get a new coil. I could, there's a million things I could have tried, but I'm not going to. I think that solution is the best one. And that's what we're going to go with. So I ordered some number 4 40 1.5 inch screws on eBay. They'll be here tomorrow. I mean on Amazon. They'll be here tomorrow. And that's going to be the plan. So that's how we're going to get around this issue. So I want to just show you. Sometimes you have to improvise. All right, and you got to use what's available to do that, and that's what's available. Okay? I will stop this and show you something else. Thanks. Alright, for those of you that don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, I want to show you how this thing works. So here's our part of our tuning capacitor. This is the bottom carriage. And there's those washers that isolate the capacitor from the chassis. So we're going to put this in the ultrasonic cleaner, like so. I have it set for 472 seconds, and I do have the heat turned on. I'm going to run it without the cover for a few minutes just to show you what it does. Here it goes. I don't know if you can see that, but that dirt is just like coming off. Look at that. Let's see if we can zoom in, maybe you'll see a little better. See that dirt flying off of there? This thing works amazingly well. Dirt is just flying off of there. So we're going to let this run for a while, and I'll show you what the tuning cap looks like in a moment. Okay, so here's our tuning cap. Our tuning cap was run through the ultrasonic cleaner 2 times, and you can see it looks really, really nice. Almost looks new. Really, really nice. The top here has a little bit of discoloring, but it's not rust. I'm not going to worry about it too much. All the rust is gone from the gears. Right? That's all clean. All that's really left to do now is dry this thing off really well, and then lubricate all the proper points. And I'll actually show you how to lubricate this when I get to that point, but I've got to let it dry. So we're going to do that. Be back. Okay, here's an update. So I did replace the grommets that isolate this tuning capacitor, and I've used something from one of this grommet kit here, and it's in place on all sides. There's one here and 2 here. And here's the bottom. There's a metal plate that goes across, and then here's the one that I just replaced, so everything is isolated correctly. So the next thing to do is to solder wires to these 3 points, and those are going to go through the chassis to the bottom, and I'm going to reconnect them where those wires come up. Okay? And then when I reconnect this thing in general, one goes here, one goes here, and there's a ground strap here. And if you turn this around, there's a ground strap right here and a ground strap right here. And that's all she wrote. Now we're just going to grease it, and we're ready to put this thing back together. Alright, and I'm going to use white lithium grease. One thing I want to show you about this mechanism, typically on a radio, where the dial string comes in and connects to the spring, they have this split open like a V. This radio just has a hole, and you have to run the wire, the string in one direction and another direction. So there's 2 pieces of string that come in here. That's a little bit unusual. Some of the radios I've worked on didn't have just a hole, it had a slot cut. No big deal. Probably makes it a little bit easier actually. Same thing on this one. So that's the story there. But you could see that this thing looks really good, nice and clean. Looks a lot better than it did before I took it out. So I think we're in good shape here. All right. So we'll grease her up, we'll solder some wires, and then we'll get to the next step. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to end this episode on this part of it, and then I'm going to show you in the next episode a few things. So what I did here is I applied some lithium grease to the tuning capacitor in all the right points, so it's very, very smooth. What I'm about to do now is put some new wires there, and I'm going to run those down through the chassis and connect them. Then I'm going to mount all this stuff where it belongs. In the next video, there's 2 things I'm going to show you. I'm going to attempt to do the restring of the dial, because I think that's the job everybody hates and dreads. So I'm going to attempt to do that and show you how to do that. And I'm going to show you the final result of fixing this can. Alright, if you remember, I'm going to put a number 4 nylon screw up through that hole, right there in the center, come up the top, and it's going to come out of this hole in the can, and there's going to be a washer and a nut there holding it in. So that's going to be in the next episode. This one's a little bit too long, I think. So that's going to be it for this one. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care, folks.